Hey everybody! I hope you enjoyed the clicky clacky keyboard sounds. How's everyone doing today? Hello, respiratories. Hello, hello, glitter baby kitty. Hello, Lovejoy. Hello, Flat Eden Society. Hello, respiratories. Hello, Bake 31011. Hello, Flat Eden Society. Hello, Commander Joe. Hello, respiratory. Did I ever say respiratories? Chatting with everybody here. How's it going, Contessa Jellyfish? How's it going, Dazen? How's it going, Spaceman Spiffy Dave? Hello, Paga Otosan. Hello, Titiana. Hello, Megan Six. Hello, Dildoes. Dills does. Is that a dirty username or not? Parent of a kid on the spectrum here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how upset will I get from this? I hope not at all upset. I hope 1. I mean, well, it depends on what you get upset at. We were learning about Autism Speaks yesterday, and that was very upsetting what that organization does. But we were having a really great conversation about ASD, I guess you would call it, neurodiversity, etc. It was really awesome yesterday. I learned a lot from folks in chat. Bake 31. I am not. I should just call you Bake. Bake. I am not streaming every day, but I am streaming 3 days a week right now. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I might go down to 2 days a week because it's kind of a lot. Shitty Johnny says it's amazing the names Twitch will let us get away with. Says Shitty Johnny. Very funny. How's it going, everybody else? What else we got going on? Hey, thank you for everything you do, Contrails of a Dream. All right, well, let's look at it a little bit here. And then we're going to play a little Magic the Gathering. I hope you guys enjoy Magic the Gathering. I started out by learning that I'm going to change this just to autism and neurodiversity. That's what we're interested in. Center that a little bit. So there's this article on Vice about Hanson is facing, this is a giant headline. Hanson is facing a mutiny from its own fans. So this is very funny that the band Hanson, it turns out, there's like a lot of, I guess the guys are pretty right wing, and the fans are like, nope. I've seen a woman get punched in the mouth by someone holding a baby just to get a good spot. No other fandom is like that. The energy is just so different. Oh my gosh. Wild shit. Now, why is this? Hold on a second. Maybe if aha, there we go. Fixed it. Hanson does still have fans, yeah. You have the same Ghibli poster on your wall? This one? Amazing. That's from the museum in Tokyo. Have you been to that museum? It's upsetting how long they continue to name a diagnosis after the Nazi that killed people. Yeah, here, let's open this up here. This was what we learned yesterday. Yesterday we learned about Autism Speaks. The Obama administration stopped turning the White House blue, but the Trump administration started doing it again. We learned that they made a truly horrific PSA which compares autism to pediatric AIDS. Very bad. Put that up here. They funded research into vaccines as a cause of autism, causing a board member to resign. beyond this, they perpetuated the idea that vaccines could be the cause of autism far beyond what the evidence warranted. As of 2015, not a single autistic person served on the board. I'll say until 2016, not a single autistic person served on the board of Autism Speaks. They promoted the myth that autism destroys 80% of marriages of parents with autistic children, though research shows that divorce rates are no higher for the parents of autistic kids. That's a really wild one to me. They're the largest autism advocacy organization in the United States. They only spent 70% of their revenue on its mission. Two execs paid in excess of $400K a year. They focus on ending the cause of autism rather than providing, focuses on trying to cure autism rather than providing support and acceptance to autistic people. And they promoted anti-vaxxer Jenny McCarthy. Let's put that up in the rest of the vaccine section. I think we could probably cut this thing about the Obama administration. It was interesting, but it's not like a main fact. So that's what we learned there. Love what we're doing here. Thank you, Neat on the Rocks. Your friend works at the Ghibli Museum, Pogi Oto-san. That's amazing. The Ghibli Museum is one of my favorite places on earth. It's really incredible. Let's look at some pictures of this place. Look at how wonderful this is. Oh my gosh. Utterly magical. Totoro is in the ticket booth. Totoro gives you your ticket. Oh, and this is the best room. This is like a room that's done up to look like an animator's studio. It's so gorgeous. Ghibli Museum. Look at that. About the museum. This kind of museum. A museum that is interesting, which relaxes the soul. A museum where much can be discovered. Whoa, Cujo, thank you for the subscription. Cujo, you subscribed for 41 months? For more than 3 years? Cujo has subscribed? Incredible. Time Lord says, autistic people cannot be cured. Our wires are crossed and we can't uncross them. We can learn to cope and we're much smarter than they give us credit for. That's what we're learning today. Okay. Let's learn about neurodiversity. I'm curious to learn more about this concept. The term neurodiversity refers to variation in the human brain regarding sociability, learning, attention, mood, and other mental functions. It was coined by Judy Singer, who helped popularize the concept along with American journalist Harvey Bloom. It emerges as a challenge prevailing views that certain neurodevelopmental disorders are inherently pathological and instead adopts the social model of disability. The medical model of disability links the disability diagnosis to an individual's physical body. The model supposes that this disability may reduce the individual's quality of life, and the aim is, this is really interesting. Okay, the medical model of disability arose from the biomedical perception of disability. This model links a disability diagnosis to the individual's physical body. That's a really interesting way to put it. Because that seems like obvious, right? Like, wouldn't it be? We've linked a disability to the body itself physically. Yeah, of course. If you can't stand on your legs, right? You can't walk on your legs. It's a problem with your body, right? But we could say, well, why is it a disability? A disability means that you cannot do something, right? It doesn't just mean, it's not just like a fact about your body. Like we would say that I actually don't have 20/20 vision, but let's say I had corrected glasses. I had perfect glasses and they were able to correct my vision to 20/20. We wouldn't call it a disability, right? Because even though there's a physical fact about my body, I'm not prevented from doing anything. A disability means we're prevented from doing something, right? I assume. A condition that makes it more difficult for a person to do certain activities or interact with the world around them, right? Okay, that's what a disability is. So that means that it's not really just in the body. It's also related to the world that we build around us. Because we're only able or not able to do something in relation to the world around us. So for instance, if a person's legs don't work is not their language I want. If a person is not able to walk on their two legs, but instead they can do everything that they could ever possibly want to, in a wheelchair, then that person is ipso facto not disabled in the same way that I'm not disabled if I have 20/20 vision with my glasses on, right? So the medical model of disability is making a mistake when it links the disability diagnosis to an individual's physical body, because a disability diagnosis, when you're saying someone is disabled, that's equally, in many cases, a statement about the society around them. Maybe not in every case, but in many, many cases. Do you folks think I have that right? Social expectations limit people, but also it's not just the social expectations, Chelsea Blythe. It's also the physical structure of society. For instance, a society that doesn't have curb cuts. You guys know what a curb cut is? Like this, a curb cut in a curb, where that lets it go down to the street in a smooth plane. If a society has no curb cuts, like actually a large portion of my neighborhood doesn't have curb cuts on the ends of sidewalks, people in wheelchairs are much more disabled than if they're in areas that do have curb cuts, because they're not able to cross the street. So that it's not just a social expectation, it's the social accommodation. It's the physical reality that we build for each other. Okay, so Sluggy Dude says, I don't know if I understand. I mean, even if people didn't use their legs, the fact that someone can use legs versus someone else who can't is still a fact, right? Yes, of course. It's a fact about their body that their legs either move when their brain asks them to or not. But the question is whether or not that is a disability or if it's a difference. A disability is a condition that makes it more difficult for a person to do certain activities or interact with the world around them. So if you are a condition which does not result in making it more difficult for a person to do something, is ipso facto not a disability. So that means that we can actually remove disabilities. This is really cool. We can remove disabilities by restructuring the world in order to accommodate people who have differences in their bodies. So what's another good example of this? Trying to think of another example. We've talked about wheelchairs. Talking about like blindness and deafness are good examples. And of course it's domain by domain, right? Like for instance, a deaf person, for most of the internet, like say the internet up until like 2010, not disabled as regards the internet, might have trouble on voice chat on Discord, right? But that's because we were the ones who designed the internet as a visual medium, but it's more difficult for blind people to navigate, right? And so we can change how disabled those folks are in relation to those activities by how we choose to design it. For instance, design the whole internet so that screen readers can easily use it, that read off blah, 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 as I assume Wikipedia is designed, is part of it. Glasses were literally oh, wow, Harvest Honeymoon. Glasses were literally seen as assistive medical devices like wheelchairs, and this is partly why they were an object of ridicule until they became fashionable. Of course they were. Yeah, they were seen as really good point. They were seen as something about you that a medical device. I had never thought of it that way. A medical device that would come with stigma and with shame in society, like so many other disability devices do, like a crutch or and not incorrectly, by the way. Joe OSU, thank you so much for the subscription. Thank you for subscribing for 8 months. Incredible. We need to dress up wheelchairs and it'll become a trend. I mean, let me show you my friend. I believe this is still his name here. Oh, no, that's not him. This is my buddy Jason Sines. Good friend of mine. He had a really serious spinal injury. He fell. That's his girlfriend. He fell from a great height on an unsafe roof and broke his spine, and he's now paralyzed from the waist down. Incredibly funny comic. Really great guy. I gotta say his wheelchair looks cool as shit. Like, it's a cool fucking wheelchair. Like, look at this shit. Like, it's a cool accessory. He also, are there any pics of this? Oh, yeah, look at this shit. Ba-boom. Look at this. That lean. What's when he was still has lost some weight. There used to be video of him. Maybe they took it down. Maybe it was only on a story. It used to be video of him like at this rehabilitation place where they had him hooked to this cool machine that moved his legs back and forth. It was really awesome in order to try to get the neurons stimulating. Wheelchairs are customizable. They're also incredibly expensive. Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what creates the disability, right? If people don't have access to the wheelchair. I'm not even able to keep up with the chat. You guys are saying so much cool stuff. Lil Shampoo says the freedom and confidence of not having to constantly fit in lack of better words, having periods of time without having that in the back of my mind, making space for other things is such a benefit. That's such a strong point. But I want to see what you were referring to. So Matthew Dura says, I consider autism to someone just being mentally built different. I believe that some levels of autism can be considered a disability, however, not all of them. I'm curious about that. Yesterday we had folks of different feeling about folks who felt differently about their own autism, or what some described as Asperger's, which we know Asperger's is named after a man who was a literal Nazi, but some people do use that. We're going to be open to everyone's experience here in this chat. And some folks said, I feel that my autism is simply a difference and not a disability. And others said, I feel I'm of two minds about it. And we're going to respect all those feelings. But I'd love to learn more about. Oh yeah, we're reading about we're reading about neurodiversity. Neurodiversity advocates point out that neurodiverse people actually often have exceptional abilities alongside their weaknesses. For example, a person with ADHD may hyper-focus on some tasks while struggling to focus on others. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I experienced this, but mostly when I took Adderall. I could go down a rabbit hole of reading this fucking article. Controversy. Controversial since the 70s. Ooh, timeline of ADHD diagnostic. What is this? What is this vertical? What is this vertical scale? Number of surveys, maybe? Yeah, it looks like number of surveys. Okay. Kind of a complicated chart here. All right. Autistic person may have exceptional memory or even savant skills. I'm an adult with ADHD and I'm currently taking Strattera. Work from home makes me need my meds again. That's interesting, Commando Joe. I haven't taken meds since I was in my 20s for ADHD. What is Strattera? Be used alone or with stimulants. So it's not a stimulant itself. Oh boy. This is very similar to what I had from taking Adderall, though. Difficult to tell what this actually does. My partner takes Adderall for her narcolepsy. Yeah, I mean, that'll show you. That's why I had such trouble sleeping when I took Adderall as a kid or in college, because it also treats narcolepsy. It stops you from sleeping. It's not a stimulant. You've only got the insomnia, but you smoke weed to help you sleep. Weed doesn't help me sleep. It keeps me awake. Okay, this view is especially popular with the autism rights movement. Yeah, let's learn about that. The subsequent neurodiversity paradigm. What is this a link to? Oh, controversies in autism. Has been controversial among disability advocates, with opponents saying its conceptualization doesn't reflect the realities of individuals who have high support needs. So that would be the question, right? Oh, we've got a piece here. A medical condition or just a difference? The question roils autistic community. Neurological pluralism. Predicted the role the internet would play in fostering the international neurodiversity movement. Well, he was right about that. Neurodiversity is attributed to Judy Singer, who described herself as likely somewhere on the spectrum. The term represented a move away from previous mother-blaming theories. Refrigerator mother theory is a theory that autism is caused by a lack of maternal warmth. Wow. He noted the lack of warmth among parents of autistic children. That's rough. Harvest Honeymoon says, I'm not going to lie, as an NB autistic person, excuse me, I'm sorry for burping. I'm drinking a LaCroix. It's very fizzy. The stream is really nice to be in. I don't mean to interrupt anybody. It's so nice to be around other autistic people and also to be around people who are open to who I am and how I'm like. It's got me a little teary. Not going to lie. I really appreciate that, Harvest Honeymoon. You're welcome here, and thank you for spending time with us. And thank you, folks, for helping educate me as I try to learn about this. Matthew Duras says, my relationship with my autism is weird, especially when mixed with my ADHD. Like, it makes social interaction very hard, and it makes me feel socially distant to the point where I can't function properly. However, I don't believe my autism to be a disability. I consider it to be a disability when it means a person fully can't deal with a situation, such as when people get sensory overloads a lot. It's hard to explain, but I'm trying my best. You know, I get that, Matthew Duras. I do get it. And I think it's up to you whether you feel that word disability applies to you, honestly. And, you know, the really interesting thing is, like, they say about disability. I had a real, by the way, if you guys are curious, I did a wonderful interview with Judith Heumann on my podcast, and she's a pioneering disability rights activist, and a really incredible story. She helped get the ADA passed, which is one of the landmark civil rights laws in American history, and we don't often think of it as being a civil rights, one of our civil rights movements, but it is similar to all other civil rights movements. You know, they had to, disabled folks had to stop traffic, you know, in order to get it passed. And she said, disability is the only group that everyone will eventually find themselves in, because eventually you at the very least get old and you lose some ability of some sort, you know? And I thought that was really interesting. And she says, you know, in a way, it's the largest of these groups. You know, when we're talking about race and gender and, well, actually, yeah, you know, so many people are disabled in some way. But it's hard to know whether or not you should include yourself. Like, for instance, I have poor eyesight. Like, in my right eye, without glasses, I can't even read what's on this screen right now. And it's turned up so high. Let's see if I could even turn it up high enough where I could read it without my glasses on right now. No, it actually literally doesn't go up high enough for me to read it. Maybe if I go like this. Yeah, I could go. The subsequent neurodiversity is what I could barely read. With my glasses, it's still quite poor in my left eye. My right eye is basically 20/20. It's just slightly astigmatic, so it only needs a little bit. So, you know, that makes it, I have a little bit more trouble driving than other people because my depth perception is a little bit worse. And if I were to, for some reason, lose my right eye, I would have a lot of trouble. Then I would certainly consider myself vision impaired. But so I do have this, right? I also have ADD. Do I consider myself disabled? It's a really interesting question. I'm not always sure. I would say no, because I feel that I'm able to live a life that is unimpeded by those things. What did we see in our definition of disability? It was any condition that makes it more difficult for a person to do certain activities or interact with the world around them. ADD I almost never think about anymore. I think I've learned to cope well enough. Could I wear a monocle? Everyone always asks me that. I don't think that would work. Flashback to the Factually episode of Judy Human, fascinating history of the history of the ADA, for sure. Here, let me just put in here. There's the podcast links. Sluggy Dude asks, Adam, I'm sure you get asked, but I haven't heard the answer. Do you intend to do a religion episode? I've never done one. I don't intend to do one, frankly. I don't feel that religion is something that has a truth value to people. I don't think that when people believe in religion, they're believing in the literal truth of it. I think they're believing in something closer to a movement of the soul. And so I don't think that my method applies to it personally. XXVA says, I am considered 40% disabled by the VA. I didn't realize that that's how they categorized it. I feel autism is a disability, says Time Lord, if you say that it disables you from learning the way the school administration wants you to learn, but if they understood, if you judge a fish by ability to climb a tree, quote, they might be able to accommodate more kids as normal ones by their groups. This is exactly the point. Whether or not you're disabled depends on the structure of the world around you. If you are accommodated such that you do not require, that you are not impeded in your goals, then you are not disabled vis-a-vis that activity. Now this is interesting, Flat Eating Society. Internalized ableism kept me from identifying as disabled for the longest time. Could you say what you mean about that? Retro Pigeon says, I found out about me possibly having autism like 2 weeks after my ADHD diagnosis. I was looking up some stuff about ADHD and fell down a rabbit hole learning about autism, and it made so much sense. I remember feeling like they were writing about me personally. Fast forward to now, and I'm due to see someone for a diagnosis on Thursday. Retro Pigeons, here's what I want to say to you. Congratulations on taking yourself seriously and working to understand yourself. I'm not going to go out there and say, go get your diagnosis, but a lot of people don't take that step to understand themselves more deeply. And so congratulations to you for doing so. Ah, 40% gets you $614 a month. You're a veteran, XXVA. Oh, the Undateable show is a show in the UK. Yeah, I've heard about this. This is bad stuff. Slippy Shoe 2 says, I'm hearing impaired. Recently got new hearing aids. They're smaller and less visible. And I'm not sure I like them to be smaller. I prefer people to know there's something up. That's really interesting. But it's really interesting that people are becoming aware of what this stuff means, of what disability means, We're having these conversations in ways that we weren't a few years ago. Dills Does says, I had heads, or at least an unspecified disability, and that is a disability, but I don't feel disabled, and you're well within your right not to feel that way. Nuchaman says, I have a hard time admitting my ADHD as a disability because I can function. But honestly, when I start to talk about it, it really makes me realize it is a disability. The talk about internalized ableism is big too. Like, I shouldn't be considered having a disability because I can function. I'm not broken, so I shouldn't be disabled. Yeah. You don't want to label yourself as disabled because there's a stigma that comes along with it. So you don't want to accept that about yourself. Airborne Contraption says, this is really helpful. Thank you. It's really helpful hearing from everybody. I'd say my autism spectrum disorder is a disability. It makes social interactions with new people less fluid and sustainable, and it makes it harder to connect with my body for regulated sleeping, eating, caring about exercise, and hygiene. And you even, Nutrimon says, you even put that stigma on yourself internally. It's horrible and takes a lot to work out of. I feel that, yes, it can be a disability because as an autistic, I had trouble knowing the normal social cues that people know to pick up on. That leaves me and others trying to parse statements analytically, trying to figure out what they could mean. It's vital to know these social cues and what your boss expects of you, and sometimes it's hard figuring it out. Yeah, but again, if we were to restructure that social world a little bit, it would not be a disability for you, or at least in that one situation. Situational disablement, does that make sense? I think it does, to a certain extent, yeah. I like the flip of disability. It's the world that makes it harder to exist. I'd agree with you. Now, now let's see. I think we would have to say that there are disabilities that are hard to design around in that way. Like all of this is not to say that we should never seek to ameliorate the physical ailment of any particular disability, right? Or of every particular disability. Like there are some that there are disabilities that can result in death or that result in pain or that result in, I think if the individual person says, I want this to end. My friend Jason should, he wants the world to be more accommodating to his disability at the same moment that he is, working to rehabilitate and to maybe, regain his feeling in his legs and things like that. Both can be true at once. So June Malja, I gotta say, I have a writing disability, which means I just can't summon ideas and put them to paper. However, I can sometimes blast out a 6-page essay in one evening. I gotta say that sounds like me. And I don't mean I'm not doubting you, but I'm curious if you can elaborate because I feel the same way. Your son has special needs. This is great. I'm having a great time with this conversation. Ooh, just got a pain in my leg. I gotta stretch here. It's not possible to separate the person from the autism. That is a nice way to put it. The term neurodiversity has since been applied to other conditions, taking on more general meaning. Neurodiversity advocates denounce the framing of autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurodevelopmental disorders as requiring medical intervention to cure or fix them, and instead promote support systems such as inclusion-focused services, accommodations, communication-assistive technologies, occupational training, independent living support. The intention is for individuals to receive support that honors authentic forms of human diversity, self-expression, and being, rather than treatment which coerces or forces them to adopt normative ideas of normality or to conform to a clinical ideal. There's a lot packed in there. Social norms, collective representations of acceptable group conduct, as well as individual perceptions of particular group conduct. They can be viewed as cultural products which represent individuals' basic knowledge of what others do and wow, man, this is a great Wikipedia article. Normal equals bad word, a graffiti in Ljubljana. I don't know how to pronounce it. Wow, Jumalia says, I was lucky enough to get the support I needed. I am now a manager at a big corp. Amazing. Fantastic. Chelsea Blythe says, I'm so glad you have the platform for you to do this. It just needs to happen. It's fun to learn about. Okay, let's take a look at this again. Denounce the framing of them as requiring medical intervention to cure or fix them, and instead promote support systems such as inclusion-focused services, accommodations, communication, assistive technologies, independent living support. Support systems. Right, because if you have the support system, the disability disappears just as much as it might in a medical cure. The intention is for individuals to receive support that honors authentic forms of human diversity, self-expression, and being, rather than treatment that forces them to adopt normative ideas or conform to a clinical ideal. Who could disagree with these two statements? Who could disagree with those two? Wow, lots of people sharing wonderful things in chat. Proponents of neurodiversity strive to reconceptualize autism and related conditions in society by the following measures: acknowledging that neurodiversity does not require a cure, changing the language from the current condition, disease, disorder, or illness, and broadening the understanding of healthier living, acknowledging new types of autonomy. This is interesting. Acknowledging new types of autonomy and giving non-neurotypical individuals more control over their treatment, including the type, timing, and whether there should be treatment at all. 2009 study. So there were 27 students. There are two categories of self-view. A difference view, where neurodiversity was seen as a difference incorporating a set of strengths and weaknesses, or a medical view, where it was seen as a disadvantageous medical condition. They found that, although all the students reported uniformly difficult schooling careers involving exclusion, abuse, and bullying, those who viewed themselves from a difference view indicated higher academic self-esteem and confidence in their abilities, and many expressed considerable career ambitions. The neurodiversity paradigm is controversial in autism advocacy. The dominant paradigm is one which pathologizes human brains that diverge from those that consider typical. From this perspective, those brains have medical conditions that should be treated. A common criticism is that the neurodiversity paradigm is too widely encompassing and that its conception should exclude those whose function is more severely impaired. So that would be a natural counter-argument, right? Well, what about autistic folks who are severely impaired and need care in order to, need daily assistance in order for the basics of life? Autistic advocate and interdisciplinary educator Nick Walker offers the distinction that neurodivergencies refer specifically to pervasive neurocognitive differences that are intimately related to the formation and constitution of the self, in contrast to medical conditions such as epilepsy. So that's a good comparison with epilepsy. Epilepsy is a neurological disorder that I think we would call a disability. And, it makes me, for some reason, epilepsy makes me uncomfortable. It when you read about a medical condition, it makes you go a little bit. That's how I feel about epilepsy. Something about it. The idea of seizures. Oh, okay. So that's an example of something that is a disability that we would want to accommodate, but we wouldn't put under a neurodiversity view. It's a form of natural diversity in humans, but it isn't one that we would say, hey, I think we would want a cure for epilepsy. Does that sound apt to you folks? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Dancing Queen. Your friend has grand mal seizures. Can't work or be anywhere alone for too long. We should ask people with epilepsy. Yeah, we certainly should. She can't drive. So for your friend, Chelsea Blythe. Oh, are you talking about someone else? My sister has epilepsy. It's rough. You're talking about your sister. Yeah, she can't drive from epilepsy. And so that's a condition that we probably wouldn't put under a neurodiversity paradigm. But you're saying, Duo Toasty says, I think the distinction was there to illuminate the difference between something that is strictly physical and something that primarily affects one's identity. Offers a distinction that intimately related to the formation and constitution of the self. Right. So we would say that it's a tough line. It has promise to it. So we would say that neurodiversity applies to autism because autism is something that people feel constitutes. It's like, this is who I am. This is my personality. This is part of myself. Just came from the surfs. How's it going? Smallish twill twitch. Hey, thanks for the donation, Malcolm. You released Adam Ruins College when I was a freshman in high school, and now I'm going into college. Clearly, you didn't ruin it hard enough. Thanks for teaching me so long, Adam. Much love. Much love to you, Malcolm. ADHD person here, interested in seeing you research this live. What a cool idea for a stream. My disorder still makes it very difficult for me to get myself to things started, finished, all the way through to do executive dysfunction. In a way, I do wish there was a cure for how my brain just kind of keeps me stuck. I'm not severely impaired in any way, but I'm still in college at almost 30. I started late. I go part-time. Rivka Winter, I also struggled with ADHD in college. And it was difficult for me to get things started and finished all the way through. I feel that too. And let me tell you something. I was able to do it, and I get things started and I get them finished now. And I wanna emphasize, like, how we feel about our own limitations is so complicated. Like, sometimes we feel that, saying, identifying part of yourself as a disability is a way of saying, I'm going to be honest with myself about this, about who I am and what society's expectations of me are and how those things don't line up, right? Because society's expectations or structures are as important in what a disability is as the physical reality or the mental reality, right? The physical reality in your brain. And so it can be important to get rid of the ableism and be able to say, I am disabled in this way, right? And I remember actually feeling that way when I was in college. I was like, no, wait, I have ADHD. I have ADD. It is hard for me to focus. The end. And I've learned this now. And I will take medication. And I will try to work around it, But then after a while, I really started to fear that I was not going to be able to accomplish what I wanted overall. That I wasn't going to be, I was in my 20s. I was like, I want to be a comedian. I want to be a comedy writer. This is what I want to do. And I can't do it the way that I want to. Or I'm having trouble getting things started. I'm having trouble getting projects going. And it's... but then I just started fucking putting my mind to it a little bit. And practicing. And not accepting that limitation. And, making deals and bargains with myself. I'm going to go do 5 open mics a week. I'm going to do this or that. And I started putting myself in situations that made me uncomfortable. I went from being a comedy writer at a website, College Humor, to running my own TV show. And suddenly I had to start things and finish things very quickly. I was forced to do it. And I got better on it. I got better at it. And now I don't think of myself in that way anymore. And so I want to be clear that while we should really accept these things about ourselves and absolutely accept them of other people, don't accept too many limitations on yourself. And remember that you can be more tomorrow than you are today. You always can. And that doesn't mean that you don't have worth if you don't do that. But I don't want to say that. But you can, if you do want to push yourself, if you do want to expand possibility for yourself to be someone new, you can do that. You can take that step. You really, really can. And I've done it myself. And I'm not out there to say that everyone can or should be able to do it the way that I did it. You're your own person, you know? And not everything I've tried has worked for myself. But it is possible. You know, like I do stuff today that my ADD self would have said was impossible a couple years ago. And I still have ADD. I believe I have it. But I figured out coping mechanisms and I've grown as a person, you know? Eurus Zephyrus says that's a key difference between ADHD and autism. You can train yourself with ADHD and correct behaviors. Autism, the things society wants, just don't make sense to us. Interesting. Yeah. Now, here's the other thing I think. I do think that so much of the time, your possibilities are constrained by society, and that everybody loves self-help and you can do it thinking. But I don't think that is, always possible. It's just like saying, oh, you can save and become a millionaire. No, not everybody can, because wages are too low and fees are too high. And we have systemic problems in our economy that we can't individually solve. But both things can be true at once, you know? Neurodiversity advocate John Elder Robinson agrees that neurological difference may sometimes produce disability, but at the same time he argues that the disability caused by neurological difference may be inseparable from the strengths it provides. 99 neurologically identical people fail to solve a problem. It's often the 1% fellow who's different who holds the key. Yet that person may be disabled or disadvantaged most or all the time. To neurodiversity proponents, people are disabled because they're the edges of the bell curve, not because they are sick or broken. He therefore argues for the accommodation of neurological difference while also recognizing that it can produce disability. Oh, this is interesting. Look at this guy. He's the author of the 2007 memoir, Look Me in the Eye, detailing his life with undiagnosed Asperger's and savant abilities. In the 70s, he worked as an engineer in the music business, where he's best known for creating the signature special effects guitars played by the band Kiss. That's cool. He volunteered at Autism Speaks as a member of their treatment advisory board, saying that he was interested in helping remediate the disabling aspects of autism. He resigned in 2013 following an op-ed released by Suzanne Wright, co-founder of Autism Speaks. Robinson and other members of the autism community criticized Wright for proclaiming that families affected by autism lived in despair and in fear of the future. Robinson has said that disabilities are problems. That doesn't mean autism is a problem. Oh, here's his website. Many autistic people are aware of this dichotomy. Some of us feel totally disabled, and others feel totally gifted. Most of us, I'd venture to say, feel both ways at different times depending on what we're doing at that particular moment. Consequently, I support the idea of changing society to make it more accommodating for people who are different. I also support the idea of developing therapies, treatments, and tools to relieve suffering and disability from both autism and the conditions that accompany it for some people. I know how hard life is for some on the spectrum, but I also see the gifts other autistics bring. I share with you the following letter just delivered to Liz Feld. For the past 4 years, I've worked very hard to defend Autism Speaks after a series of public relations missteps, beginning with the I Am Autism video. Is this the op-ed? Oh, it's been deleted. The most recent video shows me that my words and efforts have had no real impact. So this is a neurodiversity proponent who's been trying to get Autism Speaks to change from the inside, failed and resigned. Rough shit. I gotta say, repetitively stacking or lining up objects is associated with the autism spectrum. This kid doesn't look disordered. This is what kids do. Do I have a P.O. box for us to send stuff? I don't. I have thought about getting one. I do not have one, though. There's also a unique disorder called savant syndrome that can co-occur with autism. Characterized by... Oh, thank you for the sub, Duo Toasty. Really appreciate you. That kid looks like he's diagnosed with being a motherfucking Tetris champion. Subscriber, thank you so much. Duo Toasty, thank you for the gifting sub. So kind of you as well. Incredible. So this is the stuff some folks here were talking about. Some autistics have development coordination disorder or dyspraxia. We find it hard to learn to ride a bike and we trip and fall. But our memory is near photographic. Those things correspond always? Thank you again for another gift, Duo Toasty. I'm not a full-time Twitch streamer, but I do Twitch stream at times for fun. Some of the symptoms related to social reciprocity include lack of... Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, which is so interesting right now. Lack of mutual sharing of interest, lack of awareness, atypical behaviors for attention, poor eye contact, facial expressions, unusual speech. In some cases, individuals remain completely nonverbal throughout their lives. A subset of autism where the person is unable to speak. It's estimated that 25 to 50% of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder never develop spoken language beyond a few words or utterances. Despite the growing field of research on ASD, there's not much information available pertaining to people with autism who never develop functional language. Could that be true? Are considered underrepresented in all of autism research, according to a study from 2014. Retro Pigeon says, as much as I love my special interest, it's frustrating when I'm unable to do anything if it doesn't have to do with a special interest of mine. Trying to do homework? Nope, fuck that. Let's replay Silent Hill 2 for the third time this month. The biggest issue I get with my autism is the occasional sensory overload. You think 50% sounds too high. How often is this page edited? Not very often. This might not be the best page. Estimated between 25 and 50%. We can look at the study from NIH. Approximately 25 to 50% do not develop functional not verbal communication. Those are some studies. I've met nonverbal people and they understand language fine. They just don't talk. Yeah. What's the date of the study? It looks like the studies were from the early 2000s, so a little old. 79 and n equals 14. I think I don't think that was from that study. Now I don't. Now see, this is where we start to. I don't know how to evaluate a study like this. This is not where the number came from. The number on 25 to 50% came from here, from these other studies, which we could go look at, like this. But I assume that number is coming from these other studies, which are from 2012, 2004, and 2005. So we could see if there's more recent numbers. Early 2000s was 20 years ago, ages ago for autism. All right, I don't love that page. The second core symptom is a pattern of restricted and repetitive behaviors, activities, and interests. A child must have at least two of the following behaviors: stereotyped behaviors, resistance to change, restricted interests. Now, see, this is odd because I have to say this also sounds like children, but I understand there's a difference. Dills does says sometimes I can't use words because I'm overwhelmed, but my friends understand me perfectly versus a lot of authority figures trying to force me to speak. It's weird they call it repetitive behavior versus stimming. I've heard of stimming. The worst part of neurodivergency is family acting like I'm making up all my needs, like not being able to sleep in a noisy room. Yeah, absolutely. That I can. It's a real problem when your needs are mischaracterized as preferences, aren't they? Genetics. As of 2018, it appeared that somewhere between 74% and 93% of ASD risk is heritable. Genetic involvement in ASD is probably diffuse, depending on a large number of variants, some of which are common and have a small effect, some of which are rare and have a large effect. The most common gene disrupted with a large effect of rare variants appears to be CHD8. Huh. Up to 1,000 different genes thought to contribute to increased risk of ASD. Almost all of them eventually affect normal neural development and connectivity between different functional areas of the brain. So it's like genetic, but in this really diffuse way. You know what's really funny? Airborne contraption. Re-stims. I make mouth sound effect or hum, clench my fists in awkward public moments. I do that too. I have a lot of little like ticky type things. Like I was just walking my dog today. If I'm excited about something, I'm like, woo, woo. I make a lot of noises like this. I rub my face a lot like that. I get like itches on my face. I go like this. I go like that. I often have a fidget spinner around, or this sort of fidgeting is very, very like some nice little AirPod fidgeting, right? ADHD stimmer here too. Yeah, I guess it is an ADHD type thing, huh? Yeah, comes from that. Like just gets it out a little bit, get some energy out. I remember. Oh, this warms my heart. I remember when I first started dating Lisa over 10 years ago now, and my friends were like, "Oh, does it bother you?" To her, "Does it bother you when Adam does his like weird ticky things?" And she was like, "No, I love it." And I'm like, "Oh man, that." Yeah, stimming can come with ADHD as well. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but I guess that is what it is, huh? BetterHelp.com. These are not very good sites. Stimming and ADHD. Okay, let's see what it says. While ADHD is not necessarily accompanied by development disabilities or intellectual impairments, it's common to see present with sensory difficulties, squirming, speaking of other people, picking at skin, sensory overload. Some people stim to relieve excess energy. That's how I feel. Stimming. Stimming is very common even in neurotypical people. Okay. It's all stimming. Bouncing your leg, clicking a pen, chewing on fingernails. Yeah. Or do we say that that's a neurodivergence that those people have? Different levels of neurodivergence. Like one that I do a lot is I go like this. Like that, like a little fake scream as I rub my face. Now, I bite my fingernails, but I never bite them down too far. I bite them and I make them neat. Like I never clip my fingernails. I bite them and they go like that. I used to count syllables off my fingers. I take a break every 5 words. They end by the 5th or one. Yeah, I used to do stuff like that too. I used to walk on the tiles at school in a Tetris block pattern, and have to even out where I step on the lines under my feet. Anyone do that? I still do that sometimes, where it's like if I step on a crack in a sidewalk under my right foot, I've got to do it on the left foot too, so it like evens out. Normalize the weirdness, says Spooka Pretty. Absolutely. Sometimes I just yell while I'm in the tub. I don't know why. Beautiful. Yes, stepping on tiles like a knight's move in chess. That's what I meant. Did I say Tetris piece? Knight's move in chess. You're not weird. You're just not boring. You also got to make sure the feet are balanced. I used to have a much worse problem with that. And I think it was even more so when I was taking Adderall. Okay, so we've been live for about an hour and 12 minutes. We've learned a lot today, I think. We learned a lot about what neurodiversity is. I'd love to learn more about what autism specifically. I'm mostly learning about autism from you guys, which is really wonderful, from you folks, which is really, really wonderful. I'm really enjoying these streams. I gotta pee, and I gotta order some food, and then I think when I get back, maybe we should play some more Magic the Gathering. Would that be a fun way to cool down? I can't stream for a super long time today. I know that like Twitch for a lot of people is like this long form format where like people are on all day long, but I can't really do that because I got other shit I gotta do in my life. But yeah, I could order some food and we could do a little bit of streaming, do a little bit of gaming. You do you, says Yami Yoshi. Thank you. You do you, boo. I want to learn more about everything. I really want to read that book, Neurotribes. I put it on hold at the library already. You already played some for an hour, Hunter Armstrong. Awesome. People say, do it, do it, do it. Dill does, thank you so much for sharing. I really want to thank you for sharing. I want to thank everybody for sharing. By the way, this stream, if you're able to support it, we got wonderful custom emotes for you. We got a special sub channel in the Discord. Really appreciate that. Every Thursday at 5 p.m. we do a stand-up comedy stream, and we will be we're gonna have Whitmer Thomas and Suba Agarwal, two amazing comics for you Thursday at 5 p.m. So check that out. Australian Autistic Alliance. Let me see this. What you got here? Multiple intersecting forms of discrimination against autistic women. This is very helpful. Thank you. Asking, this is an interesting perspective. Asking someone what it's like to be autistic is like them asking you what it's like to be non-autistic. It's like asking what it's like to be human. It makes no sense. It's all we know, and everyone's experience is different. When you meet one person with autism, you know one person's manifestation of autism. Being autistic feels like being in a foreign country, not understanding the customs, culture, or language of the people we live amongst, and frequently finding ourselves in situations we don't have the tools to deal with. Ordinary everyday life and situations can leave us feeling violated and exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, and sensorially. For those of us not diagnosed, or as commonly the case, misdiagnosed, may be totally confused to work out the what and why of our experiences and happenings. It's also important to note that many autistic women feel misunderstood, unheard, and that their way of doing things is wrong because it looks different, with parenting being one major area where we're commonly misunderstood. Our artistic natures mean we can struggle to regulate our emotions. Hey, thank you for the subscription, 33-year-old lady. Getting a goldfish to describe water. Amongst this, autistic women also talk about blissful experiences with their passions, whether they be science, the arts, animals, cosplay, advocacy, their families, and relationships. For many of us, the ability to focus so intensely on our passions mean we get very good at doing what we love. It also leads to an insatiable thirst to knowledge, constantly questioning, redefining our identities, and moving towards acceptance of difference and what it means to be an autistic woman today. That is so beautiful.